Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Popular Eastern Caribbean broadcaster Jerry George dies on the job. This story takes the lead in our 914th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Thursday, 6th August 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. The Association of Caribbean Media Workers, ACM, on Tuesday said it was shocked and sad at the news of veteran social activist and broadcaster Jerry S. George while hosting his early morning internet show Early in the Morning with Jerry S. George. George was a founding member of the regional umbrella media organization, and ACM said that he had remained a strong supporter of the organization. George was also a founding member of the Searchlight newspaper in St. Vincent. George, who was in his late 60s, was a former public relations manager with the telecommunications company Digicel. He died of an apparent heart attack soon after introducing his first guest on the show on Tuesday, which he had dubbed Thoughtful Tuesday. His guest, the Jamaican-born, Grenada-based journalist Beverly Sinclair, who is also the Chief Operations Officer of George's Island Media Marketing and Communications Company, had been invited to co-host the program as George had indicated he was going to step out of frame. But after speaking for nearly half an hour with no response from George, she told viewers that she had no idea where my host is. He has abandoned me, and I need him to come back at this point so that we can share some of your comments. Hear what you had to say and how to deal with people that you come across in your daily life. What kind of experiences have you had? But a Facebook post on Valerie Tucker George's account after the scheduled close of the program announced, "I'm still in shock. Came at home about 7:20 a.m. and met my husband Jerry George on the floor dead." George was a vocal social and political commentator on issues not only in his homeland but throughout the Caribbean and further afield. Among his last postings were the ongoing political situation in Guyana and the decision by some Caribbean governments to introduce competition in the aviation sector at the expense of the cash-strapped regional airline Liat. His Facebook page has been flooded with condolence messages, with some people saying they were still in shock at the news of his death. He's survived by his wife and 2 children. The Joint Trade Union Movement of Trinidad and Tobago lashed out at news editors for perceived unfavorable reporting of trade union issues in the past. JTUM leader Ansel Rocher used racial slurs as he expressed dissatisfaction on the reporting of their concerns. At a press conference in San Fernando on Tuesday, Roger said unions were not unreasonable in asking for increased wages over the years and demanded the current government treat workers fairly. Fane Richards of CNC3 News reports.
Members of the media came under attack today from the president of the Joint Trade Union Movement. Using a pejorative term to describe media workers, Ansel Roger sought to make it clear the union will continue to highlight all issues it faces and will not stop doing that just because the general election is around the corner.
I want to make the point for those editors, those house who scribe 41% and who, for the establishment, advance the establishment's position, that this morning I, as the president of the Joint Trade Union Movement, is not calling for more money or for being unreasonable. Because I want to remind you how in the Guardian and the Express and the Newsday.
President of the Media Association of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Sheila Rampasad, has responded. She said Roger's comment is an egregious example of infantile leadership to attack a free press, noting that the media has represented the voice of workers throughout the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Dr. Rampasad indicated that this is silly season and not open season on journalists.
Prime Minister Keith Rowley says he wants the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago to see whether it is appropriate for attorneys to ask a judge to defer a ruling until after the general election. More in this CNC3 news item.
This question was in reference to a letter sent by lawyers representing contractors involved in a contentious lawsuit over $1 million contracts that were awarded just before the 2015 general election. Dr. Keith Rowley, addressing PNM supporters last night, said he took umbrage with the letter.
I want to ask the Law Association in Trinidad and Tobago, who always know when to jump in the brew and when to keep silent. Is it proper for lawyers, senior counsel or junior counsel or whatever it is, to be writing a judge and telling the judge that you don't give a judgment before because the outcome of the judgment could have an effect on the election?
He noted that members of the PNM were heavily criticized whenever allegations were made. He accused elements of the UNC of trying to hide something from the population.
Where they think their people have questions to answer, their favorite contractors who are before the court, but the court has to make a ruling that might have a political effect. Them write the judge and tell the judge, hold your hand. Where they think Faris or Stuart Young or anybody or Marlene could be affected is free sheet. Could you imagine that?
The Prime Minister said the contractors should be happy to have the matter brought to an end, especially if they are claiming innocence.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Outgoing EU ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago believes Venezuelans who are fleeing their country and crossing into Trinidad and Tobago should be given refugee status. CNC3's Fane Richards has more.
Aaron Beesbrook says it's understandable why they would choose to leave the South American nation, as several reports suggest its health system is not prepared to handle the COVID-19 pandemic.
I do also think it's important that they can be catered to from a health perspective, for the sake of the people themselves, but I think also from a public health perspective it's important.
Beesbrook made the comments during a one-on-one interview with CNC3 News as his tenure in this country comes to an end. He spent 4 years in the post. As this country deals with its second phase of COVID-19, the ambassador believes the government's policies, including the decision to close the borders and to create confinement spaces during the first wave, was effective. Beesbrook says for governments across the globe, dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic is a difficult task.
Following the swearing in of the 9th Executive President of Guyana on Sunday, the Guyana Defence Force on Monday acknowledged its new Commander-in-Chief, Dr. Irfan Ali, and issued command directives through its Chief of Staff, Colonel Godfrey Best, calling on officers and ranks of the force to continue to pledge their allegiance to the country while upholding the Constitution. HGP's Wenda Badri has the details of this story.
Chief of Staff of the Guyana Defence Force, Colonel Godfrey Best, on Monday issued command directives to officers and ranks of the Guyana Defence Force, acknowledging its new Commander-in-Chief, Dr. Irfan Ali.
Officers and ranks of the Guyana Defence Force, good morning to you all. My command directives are as follows. His Excellency and President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Irfan Ali, is the Minister of Defence and Commander-in-Chief as of yesterday evening, Sunday 2nd August 2020. This means that all officers and ranks of the Guyana Defence Force from that moment are subjected to the new Commander-in-Chief's directives.
In reassuring its commitment to the people of Guyana, Colonel Best stated,
"It is important that I remind you at this time that the Guyana Defence Force will remain an apolitical national institution and therefore will continue to uphold its noble and exemplary tradition of service to the Guyanese nation and all our people."
The Chief of Staff acting pledged his loyalty to the Constitution and its new Commander-in-Chief. Colonel Best pledged to commit the resources of the Defence Force to the guidance of the new Commander-in-Chief, while also undertaking to do its utmost to safeguard the integrity of the nation.
I commit the resources of the Guyana Defence Force to the state under the guidance of the Minister of Defence and Commander-in-Chief, President Dr. Irfan Ali. I also recommit the service of the officers and rank to the conduct of the Guyana Defence Force constitutional mandate as we all put our shoulders to the wheel in order to deter aggression, defend our national sovereignty, and ensure the development of our country as a safe and secure place.
Best, through his post as Chief of Staff, demanded from the officers that they continue to pledge their allegiance to their country and deliver the highest possible level of service to the Defense Force and the country. Wendell Badri for HGP Nightly News.
The inaugural Inter-Caribbean Flight 715 touched down at Grantley Adams International Airport in Barbados on Tuesday, minus the usual fanfare associated with such an event. Regional Customer Service Specialist of Inter-Caribbean, Gillis Busutil, said Barbados would be the southern hub of the 29-year-old airline, which also operates flights in St. Lucia, Dominica and Grenada. Minister for Maritime Affairs Kirk Humphrey, who stood in for Minister of Tourism Senator Lisa Cummings, said Barbados was proud to partner with an entity to bring people together and reminded visitors to follow the protocols. Busutil said the inaugural flight was generating interest in travel to Barbados. Inter-Caribbean plans to add St. Vincent to their routes in the coming months. Inter-Caribbean is one of the airlines expanding its services in the Caribbean since it was announced that cash-strapped carrier Liat would be liquidated. There have since been changes with regard to Liat, such as the appointment of an administrator to reorganize the company.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.